Lila Morgan adjusts her pale blue bridesmaid dress for the fourth time that year. This time, it's her youngest cousin, Jenna, beaming at the altar. Everyone looks radiant and fulfilled. Lila smiles outwardly, but inside she's battling sadness, wondering, God, when will it be my turn? During the reception, she's seated at the singles table, watching friends dance with spouses and hold babies. Someone jokes, "You're next, right?" She forces a smile. On her drive home, she cries softly at first, then uncontrollably gripping the steering wheel as if it could hold her together. She journals that night, another wedding. Another night alone. I'm happy for her, but why does everyone else's life seem to move while mine stays stuck? Are you even listening, God? The next week, Lila grabs coffee with her best friend, Grace, who just returned from her honeymoon. Grace gushes about married life, decorating their first apartment, cooking together like a team, and falling asleep in his arms. Lila listens, nodding politely, but feels invisible. Every conversation is a reminder of what she doesn't have. Later, she scrolls through Instagram, engagement announcements, gender reveals, husband appreciation posts. Even her younger co-workers are pairing off. The loneliness tightens like a belt around her chest. At church on Sunday, Lila sits alone, surrounded by young families. The sermon is on building godly homes. The pastor glances her way when he says, "For those still waiting, trust God's perfect plan." She hears the words, but they feel distant. She wants to believe them, but what if she's the exception? After service, a well-meaning elder says, "You're such a catch. God must be saving someone extra special for you." The comment stings more than it comforts. She smiles again, tired of pretending she's okay. Lila's boss at the graphic design firm offers her a chance to pitch for a major client, something she's dreamed about. She works hard, pours herself into the design, and delivers a compelling pitch. A few days later, the client chooses a different agency. She gets the news during lunch. She closes her laptop, walks to her car, and sits there in silence. It feels like yet another door closed. Another no, another unanswered prayer. That night, Lila lights a candle, turns on quiet worship music, and opens her journal again. God, I've waited. I've prayed. I've said no to things you said were wrong. I've tried to be faithful. Why does it feel like you're withholding from me? She doesn't want to admit it, but the thought crosses her mind, maybe God has forgotten me. The following weekend, the church announces a need for volunteers at a local after-school program for at-risk teens. Something about it stirs Lila. She doesn't know why, but she writes her name down. It's small, almost like a whisper in her heart. Not a booming voice, not a clear sign. But something shifts. A beginning. Lila arrives at the small, under-resourced after-school program with zero expectations. The place smells like microwaved burritos and worn carpet. The volunteer coordinator, Marisol, welcomes her warmly but warns her, the kids are rough around the edges. Don't take things personally. She's paired with Ava, a 15-year-old girl with purple streaked hair, crossed arms, and a mile-high wall around her heart. Ava glares at her and says, "You're just another do-gooder. You'll be gone in a week. Lila's taken aback but decides not to push. She listens. She returns the next day and the next. Ava slowly begins to tolerate her presence. Lila begins to see pieces of herself in Ava: loneliness, fear of being forgotten, a desire to be seen. Ava lives with her grandmother, barely talks about her mom, and doesn't trust anyone. One day, Ava shares that her mom left years ago. She said she'd come back. She never did. Lila swallows hard, recognizing the ache of long unfulfilled promises. That must have been really hard, she says softly. No advice. Just empathy. Later that night, Lila journals. She's just a kid, and she already believes no one keeps their word. God, how do I show her that you're different when I'm still struggling to believe that myself? Lila starts to notice a shift. Her longing for a relationship is still there, but it's no longer louder than everything else. Something is awakening in her: passion, purpose, perspective. But the silence from God still frustrates her. One night, she vents to Pastor Elijah over coffee. I don't understand why God doesn't just give me what I've been praying for. I'm not asking for something bad. He gently responds, maybe he's not withholding. Maybe he's preparing you to carry what you've asked for with grace. Or maybe, what you're really being given is deeper than what you thought you wanted. It stings, but it sits with her. Ava shows up to the center one day visibly upset. She's been suspended from school for fighting. She tells Lila, don't waste your time on me. Everyone gives up. You will too. Instead of lecturing her, Lila takes Ava out for a milkshake. They sit in silence for a long time. Finally, Lila says, you don't scare me. And I'm not going anywhere. Ava breaks down. It's the first time Lila sees the girl beneath the anger. Weeks later, Lila is sitting in church again, still single, still uncertain about her future. The sermon is titled Delays as Preparation. The pastor tells the story of Joseph in prison, Moses in the wilderness, Sarah waiting for Isaac. Sometimes what looks like silence is God building the character to carry the calling. You're not forgotten. You're being formed. Tears roll down Lila's cheeks. She finally lets herself grieve. Not just the years of waiting, but the shame she's carried for struggling with doubt. She goes home, kneels on the floor, and prays, Lord, I give it to you. All of it, my timeline, my plans, my fear. Even if I never get what I want, I still want you more. It's not a magical moment. Nothing changes instantly. But in that quiet surrender, peace begins to bloom. Lila returns to the youth center the next week with a lighter spirit. Ava greets her with a half smile. So you're still here? Lila smiles back. Told you I wasn't going anywhere. They begin working on an art project together, a mural about belonging. Ava paints a broken tree with deep roots. Lila paints a light breaking through the branches. Together, they begin rebuilding not just the mural, but their hearts. Lila no longer wakes up with the ache of emptiness. Life isn't perfect, she's still single. Her job still has challenges, but something inside her has changed. She prays not to fix things but simply to connect with God. Her journaling shifts from asking why to reflecting on who God has shown himself to be. She writes, the silence wasn't abandonment. It was an invitation to deeper faith. At the youth center, she and Ava are now inseparable. Ava begins opening up to other volunteers and even leads a small devotional one afternoon. When asked what changed her, she simply says, "Miss Lila saw me when I felt invisible." During a church volunteer appreciation dinner, Lila meets Ben Taylor, a 33-year-old worship leader who just moved from out of state. He's calm, grounded, not flashy, but he notices people deeply. They have an easy, quiet conversation over coffee afterward about music, calling, and surrender. There's no spark of instant romance, no fireworks. But there's a peace. A sense of maybe. They start seeing each other casually in group settings, church events, youth nights, community projects. Slowly, trust builds. And so does affection. At one point, Lila is tempted to rush into something, fearing she might miss her chance. But something in her pauses. She remembers all God has taught her and decides to wait. Let it unfold naturally. No striving. No desperation. Ben respects her boundaries. One evening he says, "I like you, Lila. But more than that, I admire your peace. You're not in a hurry. It makes me want to be more like that too." Ava wins a local scholarship for her art portfolio, part of which includes the mural she painted with Lila. During the award ceremony, Ava gives a short speech. She thanks her mentor and friend who never gave up on me. Afterward, she hands Lila a small envelope. Inside is a handmade card. On the front, "You didn't just show me God, you showed me love." Inside, "Because you stayed, I believe people can too. Thank you for being the one who didn't walk away." Lila cries full tears, not from sadness but from awe. God hadn't withheld a blessing. He had rerouted it. Lila is invited to speak at a women's retreat. Her topic, God's faithfulness in the waiting. She stands nervously, then tells her story, not of a dramatic turnaround, but of slow healing, quiet faith, and unexpected blessings. She ends with, "God didn't forget me. He was forming me. I thought waiting meant standing still, but it actually meant growing roots." When we surrender our timeline, we discover His is far more beautiful. The room is still. Women are weeping, nodding, clutching journals. One hugs her afterward and says, "That's exactly what I needed to hear." Some weeks later, Lila and Ben sit on a bench overlooking the lake. He turns to her and says simply, "I'd like to pursue this. You and me. Not because we're supposed to, because I believe we could be something real." Lila smiles, heartful but unhurried. "I'd like that too. One step at a time. There's no grand proposal, no fairy tale crescendo. Just peace. And the slow unfolding of a new season." Lila sits by her window, journaling again. "I used to measure life in milestones: marriage, family, recognition. But now, I measure it in peace. In purpose. In how closely I walk with God. I thought the waiting was punishment. But it was protection. It wasn't silence. It was preparation. And now I see. The blessing was never just the answer. It was the journey back to you." She closes the journal with a soft smile. Somewhere, in the background, worship music plays softly. Not as a plea but as praise. Blessings may not come in the package we expect, but they come right on time. God's silence isn't absence, it's invitation. Purpose often precedes provision. Love that is waited for is deeper, steadier, and built on God's foundation.